Bob lives in a small town in the north and works at a lumber mill. His ex-family, wife Darlene, and daughter Eva live far away from him, and their relationship is not working out. The girl has already reached a problematic age and began to behave strangely and does not listen to her mother at all. One day, Bob returns home and talks to Darlene, who complains about her daughter and asks her father to influence her. However, the man asks her to forget about his existence, but in fact, Bob is very upset by Eva's behavior. To relieve some tension, the man goes to a bar where he notices a distributor of illegal substances. Later, they meet on the street. The guy says that his boss, Nelson, is in need of couriers. He remembers Bob from his NHL game, and especially from the famous fight, which Bob himself would like to forget a long time ago. The man cuts off the guy's enthusiasm and buys the goods for himself. Later at work, Bob goes to inspect one of the faulty crusher blocks. He goes up to the device and looks inside for a long time, as if he wants to take a step forward. His partner's voice distracts him from his heavy thoughts, and Bob abandons his terrible plan. Then the man tells his boss that he needs a day off, packs his things, and goes on a trip. However, on the night road, he suddenly feels very unwell. The man suffers from pain, loses control, and goes off the road. After a while, Bob comes to his senses and calls Nelson, after which he gets to a roadside cafe. He immediately goes to the toilet and scares the visitors. Bob washes the blood off his hands, which are wrapped in bandages, and then examines his side. Here it becomes clear that a piece of his skin has somehow become invisible. Bob bandages himself with towels and returns to the hall, where Nelson arrives. The dealer agrees to take away and fix his pickup, in exchange for which Bob will have to provide him with courier services. Moreover, he is going in the direction he needs. Nelson admires his talent as a hockey player and admits that he still watches his old matches. He tries to befriend the man, but Bob cuts off his attempts and reluctantly agrees to become a courier. Later, Nelson brings Bob home and goes to a landfill where bears often feed. This time, he is lucky to hit one of the animals. In the morning, Bob receives a container with animal parts from him, which will go to the black market. The goods need to be delivered to one of Nelson's contacts. The pickup has already been repaired, and Bob hits the road. He gets to his ex-wife's house late in the evening. Darlene takes Bob inside and tells him that Eva is spending the night at a friend's. In the morning, the man is going to Nelson's contact, who runs a repair shop in the town. At this time, Eva shows up. She is happy to see her father, but is offended when he refuses to take her with him. Bob goes to the shop where the owner's workers meet him. The owner recognizes the former hockey player. He warns that working with Nelson is dangerous and advises to think about the future, but nevertheless gives the parcel to the dealer. The man notices Bob's sickly appearance and gives him Chinese medicine. Later, Bob returns home, and Eva also notices that her father is not feeling well, but he makes an excuse about a slight injury at work. The girl is interested in the diagnosis of her grandfather, who died long ago. The man says that his father voluntarily took his own life because he had something wrong with his head. After the conversation, Eva runs off to her friends, but on the way, she looks into a Chinese pharmacy. The employee is very friendly and even offers to visit a doctor. Even when the girl refuses to buy anything, she gives Eva herbal tea to improve the appearance of her skin. Later, Eva meets with friends who offer to go on an excursion to an abandoned mental hospital. Although Eva's friend does not want to go there, for some reason, Eva insists on it more than anyone else. Eva admits that her grandfather, whom she did not know, was lying there since he died before she was born, and she hopes that she will be able to find old documents and find out the diagnosis. The guys go down to the basement, where they are frightened by a figure in a white sheet. But on second glance, it turns out to be just a pile of rags. However, Eva's friend grabs her hand in horror, pulls back her sleeve, and sees a transparent hand. The girl gets even more scared and runs away from Eva. At this time, her parents remember their years together and Eva's childhood pranks. In the morning, Darlene discovers that Eva did not spend the night at home. She, her friend, and Bob begin to look for the girl, but she is not at the hospital or the police. Darlene goes to the station to write a statement, and Bob begins to examine his daughter's things. He finds her phone and reads the correspondence with friends about the supposed excursion. The couple goes to Eva's friend, but her father says that their daughter is not there. Later, Bob calls Nelson and says that the delivery is slightly delayed, and the dealer does not like it very much. After that, Bob finds Eva's friends, but they behave defiantly, and the man loses control. The guy confesses that they were in a mental hospital. Bob realizes that she was looking for her grandfather's data. Meanwhile, Eva comes to her senses in an iron cage. Her parents go to a mental hospital and enter a still-functioning unit. The guards try to keep the couple out. Bob gets into a fight but falls in severe pain. The head doctor comes out to them, who remembers both his father and Bob himself very well. He asks Darlene to leave her husband in the clinic, as he is unwell. At this time, Bob remembers his little self in the same corridor. Later, he argues with the doctor, who who calls what happened to his father an accident. The woman admits that his father wanted to die to hide his illness from others. He was very afraid for his family. Bob immediately remembers how his father asked her not to show him to his son. The doctor reminds her that she could not stop the illness, but she protected the man. She shows his father's room from where he monitored his son's life and offers Bob to stay here in the clinic. She will study his illness and provide him with everything he needs. But Bob categorically refuses, as Eva needs him. Nevertheless, he is locked up. However, at night he wakes up from the sound of the door opening and sees that the way is clear, and on the nightstand there are a bunch of keys to the door of the clinic. Bob, without thinking twice, gets dressed and leaves. He arrives home, but Darlene is not there. Only her friend is going crazy with worry about the missing. Then Nelson calls again and starts threatening Bob, listing members of his family, which infuriates the man. Hearing his swearing, Darlene's friend says that the girls have been disappearing in town for a long time and demands that he do at least something. He goes to her friend's house again, and this time achieves a meeting with her. The girl admits that she now knows her friend's secret, she is the same as him, and gives Eva's backpack. Bob examines it and finds a bag of Chinese tea in the same bag that he himself received from the owner of the workshop for Nelson. He goes to the man and asks questions about the missing girls. He is offended. He is still a father and grandfather and would not kidnap people, but he tells about the Chinese pharmacy. Meanwhile, unknown people are examining Eva. Bob finds the pharmacy and tells the seller about the disappearance of his daughter. The woman is scared, but afraid to tell the truth. Bob notices Eva's bicycle in the back of the store and takes off his hood. The woman is horrified to see the disappearing flesh and understands that the girl is the same as him. She tries to protect the doctor. Realizing this, Bob rushes in that direction, taking off his things along the way. He goes down to the basement, finds the doctor and his assistant there, and begins to beat them, demanding that they return their daughter. Suddenly, he hears the voice of his daughter, who calls him from the cage. Seeing what her father looks like, Eva gets scared, but he calms her down and opens the cage. But the doctor manages to wound Bob. The father leaves with his daughter, and as a farewell, the seller gives tea that will help Eva and advises her to run. They come home. Darlene immediately begins to provide assistance. It turns out that she knew Bob's secret and knows what to do. She couldn't tell her daughter because she was afraid for her. And in the morning, Bob comes to his senses and tells Eva that it was because of his illness that he had to leave. She admits that she gave up sports when she started having the same problems. She thought she was the only one, but it turned out that her father and grandfather also suffered from invisibility. Later, Bob is going to leave, although Eva doesn't want to let him go. But the man admits that his strength is leaving him, and soon everyone may find out about his secret. He says goodbye to Darlene. Suddenly, Eva appears on the threshold of the room with things, as she intends to take her father home herself. Father and daughter set off. On the way, Eva begins to ask questions. Bob admits that after what he experienced in childhood, he could not hang his problems on his family, so he left. And the daughter promises to make up for everything that they missed in their relationship. Soon they drive up to the place where Nelson's new courier is waiting for them. Bob needs to approach him, but he notices that his face is also starting to disappear. Eva covers up the empty spaces, and her father comes out. He gives the package and returns to the car. Soon they get to Bob's house, and the father gives Eva the tea he received from the Chinese woman. She brews it and takes care of her father, who has lost his strength. He assures that the girl will be able to live here in peace. People in the North do not meddle in each other's affairs, and at this time Nelson opens the package and discovers that he has been deceived. Meanwhile, Eva goes shopping and the dealer notices her. Later, the girl tries to calm her father, who has become almost invisible, and after a while he suddenly says that it is time for him to go, because later he simply will not be able to fulfill his plan. He is ready to disappear into the sawmill, which he has already tried to do. Despite his daughter's objections, Bob leaves for the plant, but standing over the crusher, he suddenly stops. And at this time, an armed Nelson bursts into his house. He threatens with a gun and demands to know where his father is. Eva says that he sold the house to her, but the man understands that this is a lie because Bob's things are still in place. He accuses her father of dishonesty and decides to take it out on his daughter. Suddenly, something throws him away from Eva. The girl understands that her father has returned, having become completely invisible, and beats up the villain. Bob demands that his family be left alone, but having miscalculated his strength, kills the dealer. He admits that he could not leave his daughter a second time and will always be with her now. Later, they take Nelson to the trash heap where a bear finds him. Eva buys herself tinted glasses, gets into an empty car, and talks to her father, who advises her to drink her magic tea because it helps. And his father also told him that he did not want his son to see him like this, and he always thought that his father meant death, but someone got him out of the mental hospital. Eva immediately remembers the white figure from the basement, smiles, and offers to talk to her grandfather. The seatbelt fastens the void, and the father and daughter set off on their way.